Under the auspices of sensitization as a key to neurodiversity and inclusion, we have come across number of terms and terminology: realizing neurodiversity, accepting neurodiversity, advocating for understanding, embracing the neurodiverse community, and also having understood these terms and terminology, changing our mindset, we are now into celebrating neurodiversity. All these sensitization aspects need one thing, which we though have come across while discussing the different aspects of sensitization towards neurodiversity. And that is the focus of this session. Changing the narrative. Let us change the narrative towards neurodiversity. As many times we have witnessed that the terms, the conditions, the spectrum of diversity that encompasses under neurodiversity carries some way or the other some negative connotations, some lacking, some disassociated to it. So let us take the charge, steam ahead, and change the narrative. This session will focus on some of the instances that will spark in us to change the narrative, to be vocal towards neurodiversity. This is ableism. Now, what does this ableism carry with it? As we see the snapshot, it says a system that places value on people's bodies and minds based on societally constructed ideas of normalcy, intelligence, excellence, and productivity. These constructed ideas are deeply rooted in anti-blackness, eugenics, colonialism, and capitalism. So we get the true essence of what do we mean by ableism when we talk we are abled. He or she is disabled. So these are some norms, some mindsets created by the people in the society itself who think they are normal because it has been socially constructed, socially created by the people within the society. This form of systemic oppression leads to people and society determining who is valuable and worthy based on a person's appearance and or their ability to satisfactorily reproduce, excel, and behave. Well, you do not have to be disabled to experience ableism. This last sentence is a thrust, or rather, is a slap on the so-called normalcy constructed by the society. Because disabled doesn't exist, though there are some severity in cases, conditions which are treated otherwise. But in general, when we talk about conditions, spectrum, under diversity, they cannot be given a label. To begin the session, let us take one example of L.A. McNichol. Publishers must change the story around neurodiversity. This was the book that was published in February 26, 2020 by L.A. McNichol. L.A. McNichol is a neurodivergent writer whose debut children's novel will be published by now. I think it has been published by Inclusive Publishers, Nights Off, in June 2020. It was slated to be published in June 2020. What does L.A. McNichol says? Those people don't read books, let alone write them. These words were said to me as I sat in a meeting with some respected publishers. Ellie says, I had just explained that my work and research revolved around better representation for disabled, so-called, and neurodivergent children. But she was thrashed by saying those people don't read books, let alone write them. So we don't have any interest in writing books for them. Neurodivergent refers to someone who is autistic, dyspraxic, dyslexic, or has ADHD or Tourette syndrome. To name some examples, these conditions are all classified as disabilities. So if you are one among these, if you have one among these, you are a disabled person. Those people, they spoke very freely, not realizing that I am one of those people. This is such an realizing eye-opener incidents that L.A. shared. I am a neurodivergent writer, she says, and an avid reader too. I can count on one hand the number of times I have been recommended a book about someone like me that has been written by an author like me. So I wrote my own. She took the responsibility as she was declined by many publishers, not willing to write. So she had to take the onus to write on her own. Another example, Autism Shifts. It's an organization that carries numerous movements towards neurodiversity. They are leading the movement of individuals with autism and families who are ready to make the shift from the red zone to the green zone. As the color itself implies, red zone is a restricted zone maybe for the people who are labeled as so-called neurodiverse or neurodivergent people, students or learners in any space of an institution or organization. So this shift is from that zone to the amicable zone, the green zone, where each person's unique abilities are embraced, where work environments and communities are inclusive, and where life is lived on purpose. So this is the focus, the purpose of Autism Shifts. These instances are the live examples of the way we can change the narrative towards neurodiversity. Another instance. Changing the narrative around neurodiverse employees is one of the foundations for shifting the dial on unemployment. In addition, despite the many benefits of hiring neurodiverse employees, unemployment rates for Australian adults on the autism spectrum are more than 3 times the rate of people with a disability and almost 6 times the rate of neurotypical adults. This has been taken from the web page. The link is provided below. So statistics shown. HELP is an organization, works with job seekers with a range of disabilities including autism. Their team help you connect with employers who value your skills and the different strengths you bring to the workplace. So HELP is a savior to these job seekers who are rejected at times, many times, in many institutions and organizations. So HELP is actually changing the narrative towards embracing and accepting, also advocating for neurodiversity. Apart from these instances, the works that the organizations are doing, the initiatives that are being taken by entrepreneurs, enterprises, institutions, another thing that can contribute to change the narrative. And we all know it is none other than research in the field of neurodiversity. So we can say that researchers help in changing the narrative. Let me share a paper, the link of which is provided below. You can click on it and have the entire paper read. A research paper titled Changing the Story, How Diagnosticians Can Support a Neurodiversity Perspective from the Start. As it is a lengthy paper, Few excerpts are mentioned here. The paper encompasses neurodiversity proponents' focus on well-being contrasts with attempts to meet potentially unattainable and often unwanted goals, such as normalization. Again, that word, normalcy, normalization. So, focusing on normalization as the goal of intervention for autistic youth can have serious negative consequences. Compensation and masking strategies, also known as camouflaging, are often used by individuals with and without autism in an effort to blend into their social surroundings by mimicking the behavior of others, and in the case of autistic individuals, suppressing autistic traits. You will find a reference of this proposition, Hull et al. In 2020. It's a very recent study. It's been conducted by them. So these has to be striked off. And then only can we change the narrative of dealing and treating and, of course, accepting neurodiversity. Although these strategies can be used to improve social relations and academic or professional success, hiding one's autistic identity can be costly in terms of stress and anxiety. There is no doubt about it. Decreased well-being and an increased prevalence of suicidal ideation. Again cited, Hull et al. 2020, Milton and Sims 2016. So these researches in the field of neurodiversity is very necessary to bring about a holistic change in the narrative. It's a privilege to refer Neurodiversity Changing the Narrative by Professor Amanda Kirby. She is CEO, Do It Solutions, also campaigner for neurodiversity, medic, knowledge, translator, researcher, D&I judge, and she has, to her credit, received the LinkedIn Top Voice for 2020. So we will now watch and listen to Amanda Kirby. She purports the flip in the narrative, as the intersection image shows two sides and a junction in between the two circles. The purple circle shows the narrative and the green circle shows the flip in the narrative. And the terms and terminology itself carries the meaning, and that is the change in the narrative she supports. I'll just read out the narrative and the flip narrative. Impulsive, energetic. Lack focus, enthusiastic. Hyperactive, stress linkages. Busy brain, perseveres. Answer out of turn, works under pressure. Disorganized, creative. Disinterested in the tedious, overwork. On the go, hyperfocus. Overwork, compassionate. Fatigues, interested in the novel. Hardworking, fidgety, project-oriented. So, dear participants, don't you think this flip in the narrative is itself a big deal in changing the narrative towards neurodiversity? Let us think a bit differently in order to embrace the difference. As we come close to the end of this session, we would just retaliate into the discussion that have been taken so far through the instances, examples, researches that have been conducted, citations. We can sum up the session in this way. We have seen changes in terminology in other areas of neurodiversity, and indeed neurodiversity being used instead of terms such as specific learning difficulties. Over the years, we have seen a variety of terms used to cluster groups of symptoms and signs, including terms like dysfunction and deficit being used in different ways, like MBD, minimal brain dysfunction, and DAMP, deficits in attention, motor control, and perception. So we have come a long way, and that is witness to the change in narrative. as I conclude this session with the last sentence, which carries the essence of this session, that changing the narrative should be there. We should change our narrative towards neurodiversity. Quote unquote, as a parent of wonderful children with varying cognitive profiles, I would have hated them having a diagnosis of MBD or DAMP. Because words do matter.